Hello, I'm Tom Harris. I'm Director of the University Center for Economic Development in the College of Business at the University of Nevada, Reno. This segment discusses an area of our quarter report called Economic Edge. Economic Edge tries to distill academic journal articles for the public and conveys the important segments that these journal articles have and may be of interest to people who are economic development practitioners. The publication I'm going to discuss this quarter is a journal article by Jaison Abel, Todd Gabe, and Kevin Stolarick titled Skills Across Urban and Rural Hierarchies. This appeared in Growth and Change. One of the authors of this article is Todd Gabe. I've worked with Todd a lot. He's at the University of Maine in their economics department, but like myself has an extension appointment, and he does a lot of applications to rural Maine. Often when we talk about labor force, we look at labor force as a vertical delineation. What I mean by that, we look at the labor force and we see what percentage of that labor force has a high school education, a college education, a professional degree, or a postgraduate degree. That is an important segment of information for people to know for economic development or relocating industries, but does not tell you the job qualities or the skill levels of the labor force. In this study, Todd Gabe and the other authors employ a new database from the U.S. Department of Labor called ONET. This ONET database gives us information as to the skill levels of different occupations. What Todd Gabe and the other researchers of this article did was to look at the differences between urban and rural as to occupations, but more importantly, skill levels. And what they found is that in urban areas, there are higher propensity of occupations with skill levels that require quantitative analysis, which means higher incomes. This type of horizontal analysis is something that we should be looking at in looking at our own labor force in Nevada. Also with this segment is a short blog and a voiceover PowerPoint of the article and a section that you can make comments and we can have discussions on this topic. Thank you.
What I'm trying to do, I'd like to do, is to condense some of the journal articles that I find of interest that I think people in the state of Nevada may want to look at or review on their own time. And yes, they're very mathematical, but in the text of them, they have some good information that we should be cognizant of for our economic development efforts. This one I want to talk about today is Skills Across the Urban-Rural Hierarchy. This appeared in the journal. It's a very good journal called Growth and Change, volume 45, number 4. It came out in December 2014. You see the pages. The authors are Jaison Abel. Jaison is with the Federal Reserve in New York. Todd Gabe. Todd's at the University of Maine. I've worked with Todd on numerous research activities. He's funded by the Maine Agriculture Experiment Station. He also has a cooperative extension appointment. He's done some very good analysis of these occupations, which we'll talk about. And Kevin Stolarick. Kevin is a research director of the Martin Prosperity Institute at the University of Toronto. Just go over quickly points of the study we'll be talking about. Human capital. Usually when we think about our labor in local areas, people always talk about the percentage of the population that has a high school education, no high school education, some college educated, professional degrees, those are lawyers, other professional degrees, pharmacists, and post-baccalaureate, which are master's and doctorate degrees. And that's very good. That shows you the vertical, and usually what happens with the new economy, they're looking for these people with higher educations. This is what they're talking about with Tesla. However, at the same time, it doesn't tell you everything. They have incorporated horizontal analysis. Horizontal analysis, you use information from the Bureau of Labor Statistics called industry occupations. Industry occupation matrix shows you by industry the type of occupations that there are in an industry. Think of a casino. You have managers, you got floor managers, you got 21 dealers, those kinds of things. But also, the Bureau of Labor Statistics also shows another data source called ONET. ONET is a database that shows skill levels. skill levels of communication skills, writing skills, quantitative skills, complex model skills, the skills that a certain occupation has. And so from that, you can get an analysis of your skill level. Together, they work very nice for somebody to understand what the local labor force is in an area. Now, combine that if you look at something coming in like Tesla. Tesla is a sector that comes into an economy, let's say Washoe County. I think it's located in Story, but let's say it's a Story, Washoe County model we're working with. As many of you have worked with me, I do things with something called an input-output model. Input-output models show if you have a change in one industry, what the changes will be throughout the entire economy. Well, with that changes, you can also get employment changes. Employment changes can then tell you occupational changes, and occupational changes with ONET can tell you skill levels. So you can see what we can look at is the model before Tesla, seeing what skill levels we have. You bring in Tesla, you see what the skill levels they need, and you can see how your local labor force matches. So this idea that Abel and Todd Gabe and Kevin Stolarick have done is a I think, very nice application of methodologies to look at percents of people who by education levels, but also skill levels. They also do an analysis of geographic areas, urban and rural. They break down urban and rural areas into 10 areas. Very important, because you get areas like San Francisco that are dense, and all of us know San Francisco is different from Sacramento, and Sacramento is different from Reno. And so urban areas are different by size and distances which they. Then you have suburban areas, and then you have rural areas. You have rural areas like Winnemucca and Elko, and then you have Ely and Caliente, very far distances, and how those distances change. And it also will tell you that urban and rural, by the type of urban and rural, have different occupation levels and also skill levels. And then lastly, like I said, it goes in a little information about the occupational skills from the ONET database. ONET is very interested in showing how the skill levels are by different occupations. Given our new economy, use of social media, those kinds of things, the skill levels that people have are very important. Now I'll go into some of the results. I'm not going to go into the mathematics if you want to read that, but they do some very good information on using what's called cluster analysis. You take data and cluster it into different segments and have an urban area 1, 2, and 3 and those kinds of things. I'll leave that for you to discuss, read at your own leisure. However, let's talk about some information that results. Important differences in human capital across urban and rural hierarchies. There is this, and I think even we sitting here, we intuitively know that the skill levels of people in urban and rural are different because it's the makeup of the economy, and so you get different human capital. That also means different types of industries that come in. Highest college-age workers are in urban areas. Urban areas tend to cluster these people and tend to even look at the cost of transportation and of also the density seems to be a negative, yes, while rural areas are open. But here's important. Look at what skill levels tell us. Urban area skills is skill-based clusters. These in urban areas, you're getting more scientists, executives, engineers, and analysts proportionally versus rural areas. Why is that? Urban areas are dense and they benefit from the flow of ideas and knowledge. Dense areas, it would seem, most of us, got my original degree in agriculture economics. I was in the College of Ag doing rural economic development. And if you talk to rural people, they like the open sparseness as opposed to dense urban areas. But with dense urban areas, you're working closely with people and also angel investors and those. The cost of distance has a cost to it. And so as urban areas, they tend to benefit by the easy flow of knowledge. This is sometimes called agglomeration by economists. You have agglomerating. It makes it easy for people to work together. Even industries tend to work together in dense areas so they can learn from each other. And so these are some of the benefits. Policies, they would say, to alter the distribution of scientists, engineers may be questionable. Somehow to do that would take a long time. I always think one of the better rural economic development procedures or progressive things done by the nation was the evolution of, in the rural areas, of land-grant universities. I graduated from Oklahoma State in Stillwater, out in the middle of nowhere. We have this big universities, a cluster of people. It took, it's been 100+ years. If you take a similar population of Stillwater, Oklahoma, or Payne County versus a similar population, a rural county in Oklahoma, you would see a tremendous difference. That has really changed Stillwater and that Payne County, that rural area. But in the average, in the main, the rural or urban areas benefit from this density, and it would seem that, yeah, you want to move people out to different areas. There may be some questionable, because even though the transportation, it would seem to us the cost of living so close, going through traffic, congestion, all that, the benefits of sharing knowledge are so much greater. People will put up with the congestion. For rural areas, they specialize in machinists, makers, and laborers. This is in the paper. And this rural occupation has less education, but what they were saying, maybe these areas can also attain by more education, such as community colleges, other things to help people increase their education. Because even a machinist, even a maker, even laborers are going to be completely different, and they have to learn different skills. Social media. I always talk about secretaries. When I started here in 1980, my secretary used whiteout. Don't do that anymore. They're computer people. They have learned different skills. And so even as time goes on, people may not have as much education, but their skill level is expanding. And that skill level can help rural areas attract higher level economic development. Also, at skill level, another real strategy is that rural areas in occupation are these occupations called managers. That's spread out. It doesn't seem like urban or rural areas really make any difference. It may be because of the distribution of businesses. Increased education for rural managers may be something to increase that human capital to bring in different businesses. And that is a good idea. Other suggested probably is increase human capital of workers in places through community college and continuing education centers. Yes. One of the cheapest things and quickest things to increase is human capital through education. Accumulating money and accumulating capital, monetary, takes a long time. Donald Trump running for president is a very wealthy man, but his father and his grandfather are people that also started. But people who understand if they become more educated, they can increase their net worth and increase the labor supply and quality in the local community. Availability of community colleges are something that we need to have, and also I call vocational schools. My goodness, I wish we would be able to give white coats to people who are electricians, because for example, to completely wire a new Boeing plane takes as much skill as a undergraduate electrical engineer. Very skillful people. Somehow they don't get, the vocational school does not get the recognition. It is very good. It's very, people with technicians, they can move around. They go different areas too. Amenities in rural areas also could change human capital in rural areas. This is one thing we have in the West. People like rural areas. They like the amenities, hiking and all that. But you also have to overcome that density increase that you have. This can be difficult if you do not have that density or education, but if you have amenities, it can help local folks. And it may also have an age preference here too. But anyway, these are kind of the points of the study. I encourage you, if you have time, to get a copy of it. It's very informative. I think the main point I want from this is to leave everyone in Nevada with this. When we're looking at our labor supply, don't only think of vertical. How many people have education in high school, college, doctorates, and all that. It's also horizontal. What are the skill levels? And the skill levels are very important. as much as the vertical analysis. Together, they give us an adequate analysis of our local labor supply. Then as we target different industries who have different vertical labor force and also horizontal occupational skills, we can more accurately, more efficiently, and more effectively target education of our labor supply to meet the needs of an incoming business or the new businesses as the economy grows. There's also a little sheet that we'll have at the end that if you have some comments, be sure to we can do this discussion on this subject. Feel free. If you have some questions, you always can contact me, Tom Harris, at the University of Nevada, Reno. And I do appreciate your time for listening, and I hope you found this important and informative. Thank you.